Hi there, my name is Louis Taylor. I'm a composer based in Bristol, and this is a tutorial on key switches. I was asked by a friend of mine to explain some techniques about key switching in your DAW, because there were some things that were unclear in my last tutorial about templates and having stacked articulations in one track and how that's playable and how you can use that. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown of how I use key switches with different libraries and how you can make the most of them too, because I think it's both more organised within the DAW and way more playable and natural and organic when you're actually looking through the MIDI information and actually playing it in yourself. So we're just going to jump straight into Logic. So here we are, as usual in Logic. This is my template. I'm just going to jump into the woodwinds real quick because it's a good example of one type of key switching. So let's just, I don't know, let's go with the bassoon solo, why not? Okay, so here we are, this is the bassoon. Basically, what I'm going to do is tell you how it works. So these are all different articulations. Longs, legatos, harmonics, shorts, staccato, that sort of thing, trills. Now, all of these things have a different key that you can switch to, and you can map whatever key you want to them. But let's just have a little look down here. So, you see where it's gone red here down in contact? Those are the key switches. So that's like, I don't know, C-2 or something like that on the keyboard. I think Logic thinks this is C, this is middle C, but I think Logic thinks that's C3 because it goes down, it extends lower than that. So in that case, C3, C2, C1, C-1, so it might even be C-3. Let's just have a look in a minute. But basically, what you can do is click through them, and you can change to the different articulations. So the power in these is basically, with these contact libraries, some of them you can't actually change the key switches, which is fine because you don't always need to. And personally, I prefer it editing it in later. So what I'm going to do is just record a quick legato line, and then I'm going to switch to staccato, but I'll show you how I do that. So let's just record something in. There we go, nice little phrase here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put up contact. We can note here how C, which the bottom C on this little stack here is legato. I'd also like to use staccato, which is an F sharp, and I'd also like to do flutter tongue at the end, which is the D. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the MIDI information, and we're going to scroll right down to the bottom, and it's this C to C-2 here. So actually, in Logic, I'm pretty sure middle C is... Yeah, I was right, C3. So it goes all the way down here to C-2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plop legato there. Whoops. And some libraries, you have to extend it, but with this, as soon as it hits it, it's essentially going to that articulation and it will stay there until another one is triggered. So that's in legato. I want this one to be short, so I'm going to make it F sharp. Let's just make sure that's in line. Yeah, you can do it a little bit before so it has time to sort of catch up. It won't cancel the articulation of the previous note that's been played. It will just apply the articulation that has been clicked by the key switches to the next note that will be played. And then I'm going to bring that down here back to legato on this note. And then with these shorts over here, I'm going to make them staccato too. As you can see, back a bit. And then I'm going to do a D, a flutter tongue right here on the end here. So now, if we listen through to it, I'm just going to make those exaggerated so you can really hear the difference in articulation. So there you go, that's one example of a key switching programming basically. It's really, really, really easy and incredibly powerful and it's very time saving too because in some of the libraries, for example, in this one, it purges the unused articulations, so you don't have to have them all open at the same time in different stacks. You can just use the ones you want to do, which is great. So I'm going to delete that for now because we don't need that one anymore. Now that's not the same for every library. That is the Spitfire Symphonic Winds, and many of the other libraries will use a similar thing. I'm going to show you now the strings. Let's do violins on BBC Symphony Orchestra Pro because that's quite a popular library at the moment, and it will be a good little example. So on this one, I've only got Legato loaded at the moment, but what you can do is you can click on this little edit looking button here, and there's all of these articulations available. So let's say I want Collegno, maybe I want short spiccato, maybe pizzicato. So I can have I could load them all, but it's quite CPU and RAM intensive if you have them all loaded, so you might want to be careful about that depending on your rig. I reduce the loading times on purpose so that I can load the whole template in without any issues, and I can load in the articulations that I need basically. So basically, when you actually do it like that, normally when you just load up the default library, there are set pre-assigned key switches. But the great thing about the Spitfire plugin is that you can assign them yourself. And you'll need to do that if you start tampering with the pre-assigned articulations, if you edit them to remove some. So the way you do that is this little button here called Trigger. So what I can do is click, how shall I trigger that? So I can do it through a CC range. I could do, which CC do I want to do it on? Or that, these are a little bit complicated. You could do it through playing speed, which is really interesting. So if you're playing really fast, it might change to short notes like spiccato. Whereas if you're playing slowly, it might stay on legato, and you can just program it to do that. Key switching for me is my preferred use of triggering. It's just really simple. So I can do it. The great thing about this library is that I can do it so that this note is actually, let's say, C0 or C. In fact, I'd quite like it to be, if that's C3, C2. That's what I'd like. So, as you can see, it's gone green. So, and I'm going to make the Collegno one the D above it. So now, what I can do is actually play the notes I want and change the articulation at the same time. So, whoops. So it's already changed automatically. But if I do that, then. So you see, I've just changed that with my keyboard. I'm using my fingers at the same time. I can switch in between them like this really quickly. But I tend to still avoid doing that because, well, honestly, my brain just can't catch up with it all the time, especially when there's a lot of different playings going on and it's fast music and detailed music. I don't have the time to think like that. So what I do is I generally just play in the legato, assign these key switch. I usually don't do these ones up here. I just do them right at the bottom of the keyboard, all standard, like C-2, and just going up from there so that I can just keep a track of it in my head. You can do whatever you want. There's no way or right or wrong way of doing it. Just do whatever feels right, basically. And yeah, so that's how I would do that. And like I did with the bassoon, I would record my little melody, and then I would change the key switching later. That's what I tend to do the most, but and I would recommend that workflow, but whatever works for you, and whatever feels natural and organic, just do what you need to do. So I'm going to clear this now, because I don't need that open anymore, and therefore there's no need for a trigger, so it's cleared that too, because it's the only articulation available. Now, where it gets a little bit weird is some libraries, like the Cinematic Studio Brass, have a little different way of doing it, which you can change and tamper with a little bit, but it just takes some getting used to. So let's say, I don't know, trumpet solo here. So this is the Cinematic Studio Brass trumpet solo. So beautiful trumpet. I really love this one. Now with this library, I've actually got I've not loaded. Again, with the articulations, I unload them all. So you do that by alt-clicking. Now, currently, if I play, well, nothing should really be playing, so I'm not sure why, but maybe there's a default articulation. But if I click on them, I can just click on whatever I want, alt-click to get rid of them. Now, what's interesting is that you can do it through key switching, which is applied here. So if I go back here, I'm actually doing that with my fingers on my keyboard. Now, the other interesting thing, this is part of the reason I love this library specifically, is because it allows you to differentiate between the different types of short notes with the modulation wheel, which is really quite handy. So you can really get specific and detailed with it. So you can have SFZ, which is like a sforzando, so it's like a kind of a long, almost marcato type note, but not actually quite not as long as marcato. And basically you can do staccato, which is short but not too clipped, staccatissimo, very clipped, and one of the wonderful things about this one is repetitions, so you can really go. I actually tend to use repetitions for like the shortest notes possible, because the annoying thing about it is that, well, it's not really annoying, it's really useful, but I feel that repetition samples on this library sound the most natural actually out of all the shorts. So I tend to, but the annoying thing is that it cuts off, the way it repeats like that is that it cuts off the tail. So if you don't have any reverb on this, which I'm not sure I do or not really, but you can kind of hear it cutting there. It just goes, like, you know, it cuts straight off, it ducks. The tail, there's not much of a release tail or sustain tail. So, I just add a bit of reverb onto there to make it sound like it's in a room, and hey presto, you're fine, basically. So that's what you do there. Now, what I'm going to do is just record in a little line like I did earlier. Excuse this awful melody. Although I'm sure Jacob Collier would find a good way of harmonising it and making it sound incredible, as he does. But basically, so I want all of these legato. So let's have a look. The legato articulation is this one here, so the C. So you just have to find that C on the keyboard. I tend to just copy a note down. You can use the pencil tool, but I just don't really care. So I think it's this one. Oh, it might be the one beneath it, actually. Oops. There you go. Whoopsie. Oh, that's weird. Why isn't that working? I can't see it affecting it, which is a bit odd. Let me just make this a bit smaller. It's huge. Oh. There we go. It's a bit too high up. So it's C0 is the default on this library. Okay. So now I want this one. It's on sustain, and as you can see here, the F above it is the short notes. So I am going to, you know, make these. I'm going to make this one really short, this one kind of half, and this one long, and then these ones legato again. So what I'm going to do, bring the legato back here. I did it a bit before, so it can catch up with it nicely. And the way you can differentiate is simply by using the modulation automation. So, for example, this is kind of the tricky part. It allows for a lot of specificity, but it does get a little bit fiddly. So you might have a nice curvy. That's a bit too soon, isn't it? A nice curvy line here. Let's just, so you can use command, by the way, in Logic Pro, and it goes to the alternative, so you can change that to whatever you want, and when you press command and the mouse, hold command down, it changes to the alternative tool you've got selected. So if I want this nice little line here, and it nicely, oh, but wait a minute, when I play that, it's not going to play the short note that I want, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right down here, like that, and then I'm going to go sort of halfway up for this one, and then right the way up for this one, and then I'm going to bring it back down to about the same level it was here, so I can get that same curve and then tail off like that. So I'm just going to make sure that that's going to work by adding another little thing there. So there we go, that should definitely work. Okay, so let's just listen to that now. If we make those really loud, you'll hear the difference, I think. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference when it's that fast, but it really is helpful to be able to do that. So again, just to clarify, I'll show you on this. if I'm on the staccato, so you see here how it's switching just because I'm changing the modulation or automation. So it's going from repetition to staccatissimo to sforzando there. So that's basically how it works. And then back to legato here with a nice legato phrase. So that is essentially how you do key switching. So I've got all of them down here, and it just works like that. Might be a bit different depending on your library, but they'll all come with their own user manuals, so you can just check specifically which ones work for you. You can assign for many of them new key switches, and it's really handy. I know, for example, with Halion Sonic, when there's a key switch on the Halion Sonic Symphony Orchestra, which you might be using with Dorico or Cubase or something, you have to actually extend the note, the key switch note, for the duration of the phrase that you want to be played in that articulation, which is kind of a bit different to the other ones, but it works quite nicely because you can see at the bottom how it works and how it's affecting only the notes within that range. So it's quite useful in some ways, maybe not in others, but most of them just do the way I've done on this tutorial. So I hope that was helpful. Do let me know what you think in the comments. Please do leave a like and subscribe and ring the notifications bell. That will really help me out. And if you need any more tutorials like this, just let me know and I'll be happy to help out by making one. Thanks so much. Bye now.